DeLuna Coffee is owned and operated by diehard Florida State fans and boosters, the Lemmix family in Pensacola. So cut them some slack for their Hurricane blend. No green and orange, and it's definitely not all about some random letter in the alphabet. It simply is a blend for those of you who love that strong coffee flavor without bitterness. DeLuna has combined 2 different South American beans with a Hawaiian bean. In fact, the Hurricane blend has won as many ACC titles as the school in Coral Gables. Try it or one of their other 24 blends and get a discount when you use the promo code WARCHANT15. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.
From Tally to Cali,
it's time
to wake up.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee.
Coffee's for closers only.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
I gotta stay.
Wake up! What is up? It is Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee. DeLunaCoffee.com. Come explore our world of coffee. Don't forget, over at the website, there are 2 bundles. Pick your own adventure. You cannot go wrong. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 on all the other great stuff at the website. I think they've already deeply discounted that bundle for you. So I'm not even sure if Ed's getting crazy and letting that promo apply. He shouldn't. I mean, he's got a family to feed too, right, Corey?
Right, Aslan. Exactly right. He's got a family to feed.
Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. You know what to do. Promo code WARCHANT30. We do not have a special promo after beating Miami. There should be like a beat Miami promo. But, man, it's worth it. Just take the 30 days, everybody. Go read all the recruiting updates. Bless Harris, an FCS transfer from Lamar, flipped from UCF to Florida State yesterday. Marvin Jones Jr. puts Florida State in his top 5. You would know all the stuff if you're, on the website, so use it. The promo code WARCHANT30. Corey Clark, man, I should have done this beforehand, but how many days has it been since we, as Florida State fans, journalists though, first and foremost, can enjoy, 2017, November versus the Gators. It's been a long time. 31-28 Florida State beats Miami. So much to talk about. We'll get into the individual aspects. We'll get down to the granular level. But just as a guy who talks about how tough it is to write about a team that loses games and then wins some games, but maybe not in the most beautiful fashion against the most enticing opponents, to take down a rival in the fashion that Florida State was able to Saturday, how fun was that column to pen for you?
Yeah, it was, it would be back in the day when I was using a pen. But yeah, I know you're just using the vernacular. I got it. But I think, man, number one, even that win over Florida that you mentioned in 17.
Please don't.
The coach was leaving.
Man. I don't care.
The coach was leaving. So even that one didn't feel like this one. This one just felt 100% different. It's probably the best Florida State fans have felt after a win. I would guess since probably the 16 Florida game, honestly, when DeMarcus and Dalvin are sitting and DeAndre are sitting in the stands with the student section, sitting up on the railing with them, and the way you want it, because that's what struck me the most. It's like, look, man, I didn't want to write another column about look how much better they are. Last year they lost to this team by 42 points. This year they only lost by 8 or 5. They've narrowed the gap. Like, I didn't want to write that again. It's true, but I didn't want to write it. So for them to give up a 28-3 run in the middle of a rivalry game and then find a way to go win that game, it was just cool, man. I don't know what it says about I don't know if a corner has been turned. I feel like it really probably helped recruiting a lot, and that has a lot to do with the people that are listening to this that were at the game, and we met many of you on Friday night. I think the atmosphere and the environment and the intensity of that game could not have hurt recruiting. It was a great showing from Florida State fans and from the student section. Everyone that was there. I don't know what it means for if they've turned a corner necessarily as far as no looking back, never going back. But man, it's a program that desperately needed a win like that, in a team that needed a win like that to show they could do it. Like the Syracuse game, I know they won a close game in the final minute, but it felt like they kind of held on, scratching and clawing for that game, and they hit 2 big plays because their quarterback's a really good athlete. And that's why they won the game. And the other coach this other coach made some mistakes too there at the end. But this one was a straight-up comeback that nobody was expecting. It just And you made plays when you had to make plays. And that 4th and 14, no matter what Andrew Parchment, Jordan Travis do for the rest of their lives, much like Chris Ricks, PK Sam, and Dominic Robinson, they're intertwined, man. That's a play that's going to live on for a long, long time. It was just cool. It was a cool moment to be at, to see Doak like that, and to see this fan base and those players get to celebrate.
Yeah, man, so many happy people on the website, whether it's YouTube, whether it's warchant.com, whether it's Twitter, my telephone, text messages, everything, my buddy Slack group that I'm on. Happy for everybody to be able to kind of savor it and enjoy it. So let's start there then, offensively. Famous man on the message boards once said, coaches coach, players play. Going into this game, thought Miami had the edge at quarterback. Don't know how much I've changed that sort of thinking, but man, just tip of the cap to Jordan Travis. He won that game in spite of his coaching at times, it felt like, at least in the second half. That last drive, man, to get into the 4th and 14, they did him no favors. He might not even done himself any favors to put themselves in that sort of hole, in that sort of predicament. But to hit Ja'Kai on that wheel route, the throw was absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
The throw to Parchment, yeah, it's right up there with, Ricks to D-Rob. Obviously it was the penultimate play, and then you have PK Sam's game-winning touchdown, the sneak from the 1-yard line, maybe not as climactic, but again, man, that was not a really good second half offensively for Florida State at all. But when it came down to it, when it mattered most, that dude found ways to make plays, and he did it with his arm. And we haven't really seen him run the ball all that well. He really, for all the things that I think the high-end sort of hopes for Jordan Travis was everything was going to kind of hinge and pivot off his ability to run, not so much just be a threat. I know that does help open up other things for guys like Jay-Sean and Trey-Sean, and Jordan to himself when he's got to run and things break down. It helped on that 4th down play. Miami rushed 3. They had 2 spies on 4th and 14 when all you have to really do is just stay on the goal line. But that's a whole other conversation. But the fact that he was able to use his arm to win that game, again, with some, man, they went 3 and out. I mean, they got 2 first down. They got a first down, I think, on their first possession of the 4th quarter. Then they went 3 and out, got the ball back after the defense, got Miami to go 3 and out. Then they went 3 and out again. So he wasn't given a whole lot of favors by, I think, some of the play calling by Kenny. And 4th and 14, just what an absolute tough situation to be in. So shout out to him, man. That was an incredible throw, and I mean, golly, it's crazy how a game can flip like that. And so much of it's, I wasn't at the game. I'm not a fan in the stands, but I can't imagine the emotional swing when you see you look on the scoreboard and you see it's 4th and 14. The game's coming down to this. Like, there's no way you're converting it, and then all of a sudden, like, yes, they did, and then they scored a touchdown. So Jordan Travis, I'm buying some stock. I'm going to diversify my portfolio. But I just couldn't do this show without giving that kid all the credit in the world.
Yeah, that's the biggest throw of his career, honestly. I mean, the Douglas one was big too, but we've seen him make those throws before. The ones down the sideline to an open guy, he can put it on the money. And the one to Parchment early in the quarter that we never really got a good explanation as to what the world happened there. But we've seen Travis throw the ball down the sideline and put it on dudes. He's made that throw. The one in the middle against the zone to Parchment on a 4th and 14 where he kind of steps up in the pocket, trust his protection and just rips a ball to a spot, not even to a guy, to a spot. That's the stuff we haven't seen a lot of. And that's what's, you're like, okay, can he build on that? Because now when you look back at the North Carolina Clemson in this game, I know he's not what everybody wants him to be. But that's 3, when you go look at those numbers, that's 3 pretty solid throwing games in a row. Where, the Clemson game he threw for over 200 yards until that stupid last play. This one he threw close to 200 yards, I think, over 200 yards. And then the North Carolina game he was great throwing the ball. And standing in the pocket, like doing the traditional quarterback stuff. I thought he looked pretty good, and I thought, like you said, you were talking about the second half, it seemed like they were playing not to lose. Like they had a 3rd and 7. It was the one where Corbin fumbled. That's a 3rd and 7 safe call. Yeah. Like, let's just hand it off on a counter. Let's see if we can fool them. But if we don't get it, we're going to punt. They had another one down there around the Miami 40 on a 3rd and 10 or 11 where it was a quarterback draw. Like it didn't seem like they trusted him to make the throws.
But they trust Ryan Fitzgerald to kick 50-yard field goals. It's bizarre.
Well, bizarre. Yeah, well, sure. That's another discussion. But he has the leg. He didn't get all of that one.
But it's the rivalry. Both Manny too. Read a book, guys. Not going to put things on your kicker in this game.
So, but it was odd to me that it seemed like they were kind of handling Jordan with kid gloves a little bit as far as the passing game. Most of the passes were quite a bit of his passes were those little forward shovels on basically a read option draw. It seemed like another RPO, but it was really it was RRO. They just happened to count as passes because he was flipping them forward, which is which by the way, if we're going to criticize Dillingham for some of that second half stuff, that was a good wrinkle that they added this week. Looks like they act like it's going to be a slow zone read that they've been doing for a month now, and then the tailback jets outside and Travis does a little shovel pitch to it. That was a nice little wrinkle. Ward got 30 yards on one of those plays, plus I think a late hit out of bounds or something. So that worked well for them, especially in the first half. And then I think Miami made the adjustment. But yeah, it was like they didn't trust Jordan to make a throw on 3rd and long. They just don't, or maybe he doesn't trust himself. I don't know what the play call is. But in that moment, 4th and 14, you can't run for it. There's this is do or die. Like, it's not like, oh man, I hope I don't want to make a mistake here. The game's on the line. Like, they intercept it, who cares? You don't get it, it's the same thing. You've got to trust what you see and make a throw to a spot, and he did. And you wonder, okay, now that he's done that, like that's a big time play by a quarterback. That's what the great ones do. I'm not saying he's great, but that's what the great ones do in that moment. How much will that propel him moving forward on more plays like that? More 3rd and 11s, more 3rd and 13s where he trusts what he's seeing. And wait till he gets some better receivers in here. But my man Parchment, how about my man Parchment coming through like that, Aslan? I have never seen Twitter or our message boards, or even my ex-wife who was in the stands, melt down on a play like that one where he stopped running in the 4th quarter on a ball that was perfectly thrown. It might have been an 80-yard touchdown if he'd have kept running because he had made the guy fall down. And he pointed to the guy. I said, well, maybe after the season, when we're just sitting back shooting the breeze with Dillingham and Norvell, we can get what really happened on that play, because Norvell said it was a bit of a miscommunication. He didn't want to put it all on Parchment. Parchment didn't really address it when he was asked about it. Travis didn't really either, other than to say he redeemed himself with that play by the goal line. But I just can't imagine what that play was supposed to be. If he was a decoy, if it was supposed to be something else. I don't know what it was. But either way, him coming back and making that play, I know it wasn't the season he wanted here at Florida State, and it's not what Florida State wanted from him this season. But that's a big-time play, man. That is a big-time play from a guy that's never really gotten a chance to make many, because Kansas is Kansas. His name will forever be remembered by Florida State fans because of that one play, even in a 4-6 season. Against a team that might be firing their head coach any moment. That's still awesome, man. It's just a cool moment for both those guys and for the whole team.
I mean, I mentioned it. Ira brought this up again a few weeks ago. We mentioned on the show where you got to a certain point with Andrew Parchment where obviously it wasn't going to work out the way we drew it up in our What If series at the beginning of the season, of him like being the next Tamorian Terry, perhaps because he could maybe take the top off of a defense. But you're like, just give us one game. Give us one game where you find that 6-catch, 119 and 2 touchdown that you did in Kansas. Maybe we'll get that in the next 2 weeks. But if we don't, that game, I mean, hey, you have 85 scholarships. You're not going to hit home runs on all of them. But man, it's if you're going to step up in one game, in one moment, we'll take it. We'll take it. It's a win, right? I mean, it's a win. How many guys have been in this program last 4 or 5 years that have taken up a scholarship, Corey, that haven't done anything? Yeah. So it's a win. It's a win. It was incredible, man.
It's a great moment. It's a great moment for him. I'm sure he was expecting bigger things when he got here. Like I said, I'm sure Florida State was expecting bigger things from him when he got here. But it's not like this was all worth the one moment. Like, there's still more season to play, and there's been more games that he's been a non-factor completely. But he is the most talented of the bunch, and it's not really all that close. I don't know what didn't click early in the season. We noticed it from the very first couple of practices. They were on him more than they were on anyone. And for whatever reason, it didn't seem to really click at all. I don't think he played a second against North Carolina. Well, he might have played 1 or 2 plays. But then in this game, Keyshawn Helton could not play. And they just don't have a lot of guys out there. So Parchment, even after that play, they had to put him back on the field. They didn't have any other choice. And he is the most physically gifted guy they have on the team. He's the one that looks like a real receiver. Maybe McLean, but McLean's young. And then, he stepped up and made a play, ran that in route against his zone, snatched it. And then, I swear I thought he got in the end zone. But he didn't.
Thankfully.
It worked. It worked out. It worked out a lot better for Florida State that he didn't, and that Manny Diaz was on the other sideline. That worked out well too.
Yeah, I mean, he played 6 snaps against Wake, didn't get 1 against North Carolina, 11 against UMass, 9 against Clemson. But the last 2 weeks, especially when they have McKenzie in the game, and it seems like they're going to have to go more pass heavy. He played 42 snaps against NC State, and then
I think it's more right. Like it's more. I think it had been like, okay, if we're going to be running Jordan, we need somebody out there on the edge that can block.
Right.
That wants to block. And maybe he was not giving them the effort in that regard that they needed. But, man, you've got to have a threat at receiver. He's the one guy on the roster, in my opinion, that is a threat. And when he's got one-on-one coverage, he can beat that consistently, I think. And maybe this, again, it's only 2 games left, maybe 3. They have a shot now at 3. That hopefully he can turn the corner and make some more big plays.
It's bizarre. So Stat Broadcast has Jordan 18 of 26 for 274. PFF has
274, really?
That's what Stat Broadcast has him as. Pro Football Focus has him going 17 of 25 for 244. But more,
I think it comes down to that. I think it's that Trayshawn Ward play. That was a 30-yard catch where it looks like it's a pitch, like it's a flip, like a toss sweep almost.
Yeah.
But I think Florida State ruled that it was in front of the line or right even with the line, so it counted as a pass.
Yeah. That's something they've been practicing for weeks, and that was some of the stuff I was trying to kind of hint at, where it didn't seem like they were really unleashing his full potential. Where they could do those, quick toss sweep plays just to make things a little bit more, keeping defenses honest and having to cover sideline to sideline. But if you look at the Pro Football Focus numbers, man, by their numbers, he went 15 of 19 on throws 10 yards or less, 19 yards or less in the game. So like that short to medium game, he had clicking. He was 2 for 6 on throws that were 20 yards or more downfield. But
think of those, though. He was 2 of 6. Yeah. One was the throw to Parchment, which looks like a perfect throw, and it could have been a huge play. Another one is where Jordan Young just drops the ball.
Yeah, I think Charleston Rambo probably makes that catch. Jeff Harley probably makes that catch.
You think? I was telling Ira, and I'm not. Look, man, it's an awesome win. We'll get back to the win, but trade the 2 receiving cores, just the receiving cores. What is Florida State's record? They're 4-6. Do you think they're 7-3 if you just change the receiving core?
Well, you beat Jacksonville State. You maybe you might beat Louisville. I mean, even with McKenzie Milton, if
give McKenzie Milton some weapons, and he probably looks like a different guy. Give him those weapons, he might look like a different guy.
Yeah, all right, on the defensive side of things, Corey.
Okay,
it starts and ends unless you want to keep going offensively. I mean,
no, we're good. We're good.
I mean, Jermaine Johnson. Holy smokes! If he's not a first-round pick, I don't know what a first-round pick is in this day and age in football. Man, he does everything. And for him, again, to come here, and I hate to say it that way, but everybody, let's be honest, he left a really good situation to come here, and it didn't seem like as good of a situation. But he bet on himself to a certain degree. Now, he's not going to have the team success that they're having right now in Athens. But, maybe there's something greater than that. Maybe it's setting a foundation that hopefully can be built upon after he leaves here and does get his name called out in the first day of the draft. But good Lord, he was a one-man wrecking crew. I think Coop had a really good game. I don't know about Fabian. Kier obviously played his rear end off. But, man, Jermaine Johnson, and I know a lot of it was mainly the first half, but the fact that this was going to be a game of swings, Mike Norvell said it earlier in the week. We talked about on the show as well and agreed that was probably the way it was going to work out. For Florida State to be able to hang on in that game and ultimately come back, I mean, who knows where they are if they don't have the first half they have defensively, and so much of it was what Jermaine Johnson did up front. Absolute. You got one game out of Andrew Parchment. Man, you got almost an equally impactful game out of Jermaine Johnson against Miami, not to mention everything he's done in the preceding 9 weeks before this. Love that dude. What a man.
Yeah, he's an all-time. Weirdly, he's going to end up playing, 12 games maybe for Florida State, and he's going to be, I think he's going to go down as a lot of people's, like a fan favorite. For a guy like him to come to a program like this in this situation and play so hard. And look, man, I don't want to take shots at guys that were here the last couple years, but other than Asante Samuel, you had some NFL caliber guys that did not seem to give maybe the requisite effort that championship players do, winning players do on every snap. And now some of them have gone off to different places. Some of them, not many of them are still here. Jermaine Johnson, man, is just, from the moment he got on campus, is like, yeah, even if it's completely individualistic, and it's not, he really does care about his team and this team and his teammates. But he just was like, you know what? I'm betting on myself, and I'm going to make myself a ton of money by going to Florida State and showing that I can be more than just a third down rush end. And, I mean, he's got 61 tackles. He's second on the team in tackles. He leads the country in sacks with 11. He's got 16 tackles for loss, 7 quarterback hits. Like, it's just been an unbelievable season. It's been like a Burns, DeMarcus Walker, Renard Wilson type season. For a guy that wasn't even, like, the fact that he bought in and plays so hard. And there was that moment in that game, and I talked about it. I think I talked about it on the wrap-up. By the way, watch that. Watch all our videos. There's a bunch.
Seriously.
We crushed it at Warchant after that game. We were waiting for a moment like that. We pounced. When they try to run 4 defensive linemen off the field because they think they're all getting tired. Like, they do a whole line. They try to do a line shift, a line change like in hockey. And Jermaine Johnson, the other 3 defensive linemen come off the field. Jermaine Johnson waves his guy back, like, do not come out here. Move, go. And I think it was Quayshawn Fuller was like, all right, I guess Jermaine's calling the shots. I'll run back through the sideline. And then the very next play, he gets a sack. Now, the play after that was the little dump down crossing route, whatever you want to call it, the little screen to Knighton that turns into a touchdown. But that says everything about Jermaine Johnson, man. Like, he's already put up great film. He had already put up great film in that game, and he was exhausted because the defense was on the field so much in the second half because of what the offense was doing. And in that moment, he's like, no, this is winning time. I'm on the field. It's 21-20. It's a 1-point game. We need to stop. I'm staying on the field. And then he gets a sack on that very next play. Just an all-time great season, man. He has been a joy to cover. And like I said, you hope it's permeated the program, it's permeated that room, and that stuff will have a lingering effect for years and years. But man, really, really cool for him and Kier to get a game and to feel Doak like that again. That's cool for them to get a moment like that.
I mean, he could come out Monday and tell Fuller, like, hey man, I'm shutting it down. I done my part here, and I don't think anybody would be mad at him. I mean, the coaches might be a little bit disappointed, but I don't think any fan would be mad at him. But he's not going to do that. I'm not saying he's going to do that. He won't do that. And I like the way he answered the question about the whole fourth quarter sort of altercation at midfield between both teams, and just talked about how much at that point it's more than like football. Like that shows just how much you care about, how much pride you have for yourself individually, for like your school, for your teammates. And him and Parchment just talking about, they'll always remember that. I mean, he had 7 tackles. How many for 5 for loss, 3 sacks,
5
a
for
forced
loss, 3
fumble,
sacks. Yeah.
And he's like, I don't remember most of that game, but I will remember that for the rest of my life, because that was like a moment of pride. That was like bowing up. Now, granted, it was 4th and 2 coming out of it, and Miami scored a touchdown and then scored, I think, 2 drives later. But ultimately, Manny doubled down on that moment and got some bit of juice, but ultimately it ran short for them. So he's been a delight for sure. He graded out at 82, which was 3rd best. Omarion Cooper is the highest graded defensive starter.
Man, that guy can play.
Yeah.
It would appear that guy can play. Like he doesn't get a lot of passes completed on him. And the thing I like about him the best is when the ball's in the air, he's like, that's mine. Now, he's not going to always make that play, but he goes and jumps and tries to high point it and goes and gets the ball, man. That's awesome to see 2 weeks in a row, or 2 out of the last 3 weeks. Against Clemson there, and then against a good quarterback and great receivers, he goes up and gets the ball, man. He just competes. And look, Brownlee competes. That was an awful game for my man, especially an awful second half. And but he competes, and you don't want to kill him too much because he's played, I bet, more snaps than anybody on the team this year. He's always out there giving everything he has. Those were some bad moments. And look, man, we'll talk to Papuchas later today. I don't know if it's coached up like that, but when you think, I think the defense played well overall. I mean, they gave up 28 points.
I agree.
But Miami could not run at all. Their best runs were their quarterback late in the game. That's it. They had no running game. In the first half, you're dominating him. He was legitimately rattled.
He was
a kid that I didn't think could get rattled. He looked rattled.
Absolutely.
And then he got, that's such a bad break. It's a bad throw. Noles is right there. It's almost a pick six. If it plays out a certain way, it's a 95-yard interception return. It's at least a pass breakup or an interception. And instead it deflects off him over two of his teammates to a guy standing in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. Like, that's an awful break. That's 7 points that just was a bad luck. And then if Brownlee doesn't run into Brownlee gave him 7 points by running into the kicker. They tried a 53-yard field goal. He missed it. And instead of you getting the ball at like the 40 or whatever you'd given it, 35, now they're going for it on 4th and 5, and they've got a really good receiver that made a play against Brownlee. But it wasn't bad coverage. It's just that guy's a good player. But if you don't run into the kicker foolishly for no reason, it's not like he was even close to blocking it.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy. Usually when that happens, you're diving in front because you come really close to blocking it. He just ran into the guy in a spot where you don't need to be that aggressive. It's not like that was a game winner. And then so they got 7 points that way, and they got 7 points on that crazy deflection. And that's a very, very good Miami offense. And I thought the Florida State defense, really from start to finish, but certainly in the first half, was as good as it's been all season. Just a not almost dominant, not quite dominant, but close to dominant performance by the defensive line. The DBs were attacking the ball. They were attacking receivers. It was really cool to see, man, that was, I think, the best game they played. I don't know if the numbers bear that out as far as yardage and points, but it felt like the best game they played. And, late in the game, him believing in those guys to get that stop. Now, we can talk about 4th and Norvell. The decisions just they're not adding up, Aslan. They're not jiving from week to week when we which is fine. Just say you go on feel. But what's crazy, and this is a tangent, it's a celebration. But I know people were wondering about this. Like, so it's 4th and, so you kick the field goal. Down 8 to make it a 3-point, to make it a 5-point game, because you need to get the ball. You need to score twice anyway to win the game. So that's okay. But the reasoning he had was, I just had ultimate confidence with 4:40 left that we were going to get a 3 and out, and my defense would get the ball back. Meanwhile, the defense had just given up 2 straight touchdowns. Right. It had given up 21 points at half. Contrast that to the previous week when the defense had just forced 3 straight punts, and there's 8 minutes left, and you're down by 7 in your own territory, and you go for it then. And you're like, well, it was a possession game. At that point, it's a possession game. Well, you had 4 extra minutes, and your defense was playing worse this week than that. Anyway, but it worked out. It worked out perfectly. I'm not even saying I think it was a wrong decision, because you did need a field goal to win the game eventually, and I don't think it was like 4th and 1. So they probably didn't trust that they could throw for it anyway. So get a field goal, score some points, and then hope you get a stop and get a chance to go win the game, which they did. But it's not quite adding up, those decisions. But overall, man, I thought that defense played well. There weren't and remember, their first touchdown came on a crazy trick play. Yeah. Like, those count, obviously, but they couldn't run their normal stuff, their ABC stuff, and move the ball against you in the first half. And they had to resort to some throwbacks, and they're open. Now you need to cover those better. And then the reverse flip back to Van Dyke, who threw it to the tight end. That was the biggest play of the half for them. But I thought overall, man, the defense played sound. I thought they dominated the line of scrimmage, and the DBs weren't terrible, except for a guy that had a really tough day and made a really bad tackle attempt there at the end.
He has a lot of tough days, and I know you don't want to beat up on him too hard, but I wonder when it will get right. He's young. Maybe he really is one of those cases where he just wants it so bad. And he really does play with emotion, but it's like Coach K talked about Christian Laettner. I can either let this heat that you provide, I can either let it warm this building, or I can let it burn down this building. He's burning the building down too much, so let's get that figured out. But yeah, he played 69.
Don't be hard on Jarvis. He played, how many snaps he played?
69 out of 72. Jamie Robinson played all 72. Kevin Knowles played 69. And yes, Florida State graded out at 76.6 defensively. That is the highest that they've graded out all season long against a Power 5 opponent. So
yeah, I think Brownlee had a tough game. He obviously had a really bad moment against Jack State. But look, man, I would say that he's been certainly your most consistent cornerback. Now Cooper has thrown his name into the hat now, and he looks to be very good in the real deal, at least good. But yeah, Brownlee's I don't remember him doing much of anything against NC State. Meaning they weren't picking on him. They weren't throwing on him. He wasn't allowing a lot of completions. I think he's a good player. Not a great one. He's still got a ways to go. Again, you just hope that those moments don't really impact him in a negative way and he can flush it. Seemed like it worked out okay after the Jacksonville State game. Like, I feel like he's still played really hard and played, he's good enough that he's always on the field. And so, yeah, it wasn't a shining moment. Last week, the week before, it was Dent and Jermaine Jones that had some bad moments. But you won the game. And that's the best wide receiver group you've played all year, I think. And I thought for the most part, like Rambo just made some special plays, man. Their tight end made a couple great catches. The other kid made a couple nice catches. That's a good quarterback who found a little bit of a rhythm in the second half, and it's a really good wide receiver core. And you held him to you almost held him to like 17 points. If you get the deflection there at the goal line, that's not a touchdown, and if you don't run into the kicker, take away at least 10 of those points right there. Miami's been scoring 30 or 40 on everyone. So, yeah, I thought it was overall a really good performance by the defense.
The clutch shot, the biggest hits. It's time for the Zaxby's indescribably good
Player of the week.
It is that time. Zaxby's indescribably good. I'm going to go play of the week, Corey, and it's the throw. I don't know. We got to give it some fancy name. Although I know it's just Rick's to Sam, but the fourth down throw to Andrew Parchment, just the throw that Jordan made, because that wasn't him scrambling around doing crazy backyard football stuff. That was take the snap, make the read, throw it with confidence. What a strike, what a catch, and ultimately, as we said earlier in the show, it worked out perfectly that it wasn't for a touchdown. So everything that could go right on that play went right, and it helped Florida State win and that 4-game skid. So I say Andrew Parchment, Jordan Travis, that connection, my Zaxby's indescribably good play of the week.
What about like Parchment Funkadelic?
Okay.
Is that something you could label that? It's a lot of words. It's a lot of letters there, but we can work on it. We'll spitball it. My indescribably good play of the week is a couple of punt returns by my man Pokey.
Okay.
First off, he gets hit. He gets the best thing that's ever happened on a punt return this year for Florida State is him getting hit illegally. That's 15 yards. That's the most they've gotten on a return this year, just because a guy ran into him. And then at the end, he has most punt returns in the country are just going to catch the ball at the 16. Late in the game with 2.5 minutes to go. Nah, he's letting that bad boy bounce into the end zone.
Okay.
So, look, that's 30. Hey, we talk about hidden yardage. That's Pokey giving you 31 yards of hidden yardage by not catching the ball either time. So it's starting to work out, and that's how you won the game. So that's Pokey with my indescribably good plays of the week.
There we go. Jordan, Andrew, Pokey. Yeah, Pokey, not Pookie. Robert Griffin III. Tighten up, man. Our Zaxby's indescribably good players of the week. Yeah, I call them Pookie, Corey, and they also call Ja'Kai Juki. So go Juki Douglas with the catch running down the sideline.
Juki and Pookie, how about that combo? Yeah. Hey, I'll tell you this. Robert Griffin III and Mark Jones have been on the call for the North Carolina game and the Miami game.
Okay, all right.
So there's something there. There's something working there. Just going from what they've seen, they're like, is Florida State going to be ranked this week? It's a great program. They don't ever lose when we're in the house. But yeah, going back to Pokey, like you talk about, it's why it's so. I'm way too pragmatic. I get it. I don't put it quite enough stock into wins and losses like I should. It's more of if you're close and you give yourself a chance. It's kind of like basketball. Like get to the NCAA tournament, hopefully you get a good matchup and you make the plays down the stretch to win those games in the first, second, third rounds. But like think about Pokey not catching that ball and it rolling down to the 1, which it almost did.
Yes.
It was a half second away from being down at your 1 foot line. Something that's been a problem with you all year. And in that moment, the biggest punt of the year, I know there were people around him, but he let it drop at the 16. And the luck it took, and Florida State was due some luck, but to roll 16 yards with a bunch of Miami guys there and then get out of the end zone it was an incredible stroke of good luck for Florida State, because I have a feeling that drive plays out a little different if you're your 1 foot line, as opposed to the 20, which you got the ball. So that was that's where luck comes into play too. You give yourself a chance. You're in the game in the fourth quarter. That's the first step. And then you obviously want to make plays when it matters, which they did, but you also sometimes need a little luck. And they've been on the wrong end of some luck, and then on that one they were very fortuitous.
Okay, Corey, we talked about it going into the game, in my game prediction, I was just, I think Miami's got a better roster. They've got a better quarterback, but I think Florida State has a better coach. And just the way that Manny listen, man, Manny did a bunch of crazy sort of going for fourth downs, the trick play. I mean, the way he had the team go out there at midfield of the fourth quarter. And again, hey, man, Miami took it. Miami outscored Florida. I mean, they jumped out in the fourth quarter and got 2 quick touchdowns. So it was really hard to say that backfired, even though they lost the game. But I'm not that I feel bad for Miami fans or anything. Let's not get that twisted.
Yeah, calm that down right now.
My friend checked me on my tweet when I was like, man, Manny really thought his team was going to stop a team 4 times on the 1-yard line. And my buddy, Mercedes Mike, he's like, they almost did if they didn't get that offsides call. But the amount of penalties that Miami had in that game, just every brand and variety of penalty, after the whistle, before the whistle, in between whistles. And in that moment where everything is so heightened, like you really think your guys are going to bow up. And the camera flashed him on the sideline, and he's like, he throws his arms out like, bow up, guys, bow up. Like, okay, great advice, coach. We didn't think about that. I guess credit to Norvell, like maybe kicking that field goal puts a whole different kind of pressure on not only Rhett Lashley in terms of what he wants to do, but maybe what Manny's telling Rhett he's got the green light to do. At that point, do you just try to kick a field goal to make it a touchdown game? Are you going for the jugular and trying to score a touchdown just to put the game out of control? There were just moments in that game, things that Manny did where if you're a Miami fan, you're totally over him. And not that Norvell coached the game of his life. I don't think, again, there's some stuff that Kenny did second half, not putting this team, I don't think, in the best position to win, but Jordan and some of the guys around him made plays. Do you ultimately think coaching, decisions, critical moments was ultimately what led Florida State to win a game? Or do you think that they just are an evenly matched team and like the crowd willed them to the victory?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty evenly matched. Miami probably has a little bit more, especially on offense, more talent at the skill positions. Florida State, I think, has a better defensive line. And Miami was playing 2 freshman safeties, and one of them got hurt. So they had to play a backup safety who was also a freshman. That's what, when you talk about Dillingham, there's got to be some stuff in the middle of the field where you can take advantage of a backup freshman safety. They have 2 freshman safeties. Like they're all freshmen, and it's like it didn't seem like you were trying to exploit the middle of the field. And that might be because you don't trust the guy throwing it, or you don't trust the people running the routes. But I felt like that was a little bit of a missed opportunity there. But when you go to coaching, like it's there's 100 decisions at a game. Jimbo used to say this all the time. You make in quarterback. He was talking about quarterbacks. But quarterbacks make a decision on every play. They make 80 decisions a game. They are going to screw up a few times. It's just human nature. Yeah. But you are actively hurting your team's chances of winning by trying to stop them on it would have been 5 downs, but 4 downs from the 1-foot line. Like it just, yes, I guess it could have happened, but I also I did like the adjustment that Florida State made. Not that it takes a rocket scientist, but it's like they had 4 guys over the center essentially. Yeah. So it made sense for Jordan on the next one to go to the right, and then on the next one to go to the left. Like to keep them off balance and not just say, "Oh, I'm gonna drive my leg straight through this mass of humanity." That was a good decision on their part. But you can't. There's just, I don't know how you look at your team. You could be like, I believed in my team to get. I mean, watch football, man. Like Florida State doesn't have a great offensive line. You stopped them twice. Great. They didn't almost stop Florida State. They stopped them twice. On the third one, they scored. And it was still second down. Like, they stopped them twice. They had to stop them 2 more times. It's really, really hard to do when you're at the 1-foot line and you let 35 seconds run off the clock. Like, imagine Miami getting the ball. Say if Miami just stood up on the first down snap and Jordan waltzes into the end zone with 1:01 left or 58 seconds left. How much different does that final drive feel?
Oh, gosh.
You have a minute. You have some. I think you have a timeout at least because you didn't have to. You wouldn't have to waste another one. No, I think you would have burned one after the parchment catch. A good coach burns one after the part that. Yeah. So then he had used one earlier in the half, so we would have had one left. 58 seconds with those receivers and that quarterback starting at your 25, and you only have to get 50 yards. It's not like you have to go all 75 if you don't need to. It's just crazy. 26 seconds to 57, 58 seconds is an eternity. And for what? It didn't work. Like, they didn't even get a great push. It's, you know what I mean? It's not like Florida State just blew them off the ball. It's just really hard to stop 4 straight quarterback sneaks, especially when you have somebody behind the quarterback trying to push them in. By the way, how about next time maybe put Lovett in there behind Jordan Travis or Keir Thomas or Cooper? Like, why put Portier in there to push him back, push him forward? Why not put the strongest guy on the team to, like, push him forward? You know what I mean?
Right. No,
Yeah, but I mean, that's neither here nor there. I know I'm nitpicking, but yeah, I mean, Manny Diaz, I'm not saying his coaching cost him the game. I'm not saying Norvell was perfect. But in that moment, Norvell seemed to have a much better handle on what was going on in the final minute, including the very final play, than the opposite sideline did. And if you're a Miami fan, you're like, yeah, man, I don't care what your reasoning is absolutely asinine to not let them score right there. Whether it's pride or not, and you don't want to go, it just doesn't, it's not, it just hinders your chances to win.
Just imagine if the roles were reversed. Like, what would we be yelling at Adam Fuller? Like, what are you?
No, absolutely. Don't you think Norvell? I just trust Norvell in that moment. If it's on the other foot, he's saying, let them score.
Yeah.
I need a minute. I still have a timeout. I got a minute left, and I just need a field goal to send this thing to overtime.
Yep.
Let them score. And Diaz is out there pumping his fist, saying, all right, just 3 more stops.
From 12 inches out. From 12 inches out.
It's great. Yeah.
And then, the final play, with the spike, which first off, the clock, you couldn't do it because you need 3 seconds. And I don't know all the rules inside out, but that's one of the stupid rules for some reason that I do know in the back of my head. That when it said 2 seconds left, I'm like, well, they're going to have to throw the ball downfield here. Like they're lining up under center to spike the ball. I'm like, game's over if he does this right now. And then so first off, he takes a snap, and the amount of time it took him to actually spike the ball, whoever's a clock operator, tighten up. Because that itself took more than 2 seconds. But they had 1 second left on the clock. But when he took the snap from under center, I'm like, what an idiot. And then he it seemed like maybe he was going to go Marino and fake it. But they were prepared. Like, Florida State was prepared. They kept playing even once Miami broke off the line and started going downfield. But then he spikes the ball. Camera pans over to Norvell, and he's holding up 3 fingers like, no, you need 3 seconds on the clock. Game is over. And right there at that spot, the ref's like, yeah, to spike the ball, there needs to be 3 seconds on the clock. There was only 2. Thus, the game is over. You lose a game like that against your rival. Not that, who knows. They're probably not throwing a Hail Mary and winning that game. But
no way that happens twice.
Touche.
In a season, yeah.
But again, like if those are the reasons that Florida State lost the game in that moment and against that opponent, you would just be livid. So I can't imagine what the Miami fans are dealing with. But, sucks to suck sometimes, guys.
Absolutely. It really does. And, yeah, so like last week when everybody was all talking about the 4th and 4 call, which I didn't agree with. I still don't, especially now hearing his reasoning the next week. But, that's what's the percentage points in the win control from going for it then and not, getting that first down, punting. It's probably by a couple of percentage points, the difference in win probability, if you're into all that analytical stuff, which I'm not quite sure Norvell is. But this one, the difference in win percentage from trying to stop them 4 times from your 1-inch line as opposed to getting the ball back with a minute left in a timeout is probably 10 or 15 or 20 percentage points. Like, it just makes, like, what's the difference between being down by 3 with 60 seconds left and 1 timeout as opposed to being down 3 with 26 seconds left and no timeouts? I bet it's a pretty wide gap.
Yeah.
So that to me is worth arguing about. The stuff with Norvell, I mean, it's certainly a worthy conversation with the 4th downs, but that's just, it's minuscule. It's varying degrees, like tiny degrees. This one was that's a big deal and a really big, dumb decision to just not do that. And what bothers me about that particular scenario was Belichick did the exact same thing in that Super Bowl against the Seahawks. Just completely dumb. He was going to let the Seahawks score with like 14 seconds left and not give Tom Brady a chance to go tie the game or win the game. And he just got bailed out by an all-time great play by a backup cornerback, reading the play and darting in front and making the catch. And also that the Seahawks decided to throw the ball and not run the ball. That's, you know what I mean? But Belichick did the same exact thing then. He was letting the clock run. He wasn't burning timeouts. He had 3 timeouts that he didn't even burn because he figured they were going to get a stand. And I mean, I guess it worked out for him. But Manny Diaz is no Bill Belichick.
No. And last thing before we talk about other things around the state, I saw a couple of people tweet at me during the game about it. I doubt they care now. I didn't think there was a problem in the moment, but any issue with the way the first half ended, where you got your first and 10 on their 17, it looks like, with almost 2 minutes to go. And I think you have your full allotment of timeouts, or at least one or two. And they run the ball, set up a field goal. I think some people had a problem with, kind of bleeding the clock out,
I see what
selling
you're
for
saying.
the field goal. I didn't. Going to half. If you told me you're going to half 20-7 up against Miami on Friday evening, Saturday morning, I'm like, yeah, okay. What are we complaining about? How could we possibly complain about that?
But I don't. I think we have to realize that just because they call a run doesn't mean they're giving up on the drive. Like, we're not trying to score a touchdown. I think they're trying to score a touchdown, and they think in those moments, what are you going to throw a fade to McClain? That's not working. Right. I think in those moments they think that's their best shot. I didn't think Jordan was very good on the design QB draws. Again, I'm not a quarterback. I'm not a quarterback guru.
Norvell was upset. They showed him after the third down play, and he was upset. And they went over to Jordan, and they kind of had a little quick discussion.
Well,
there
was another play in the third quarter, or maybe the fourth. Yeah, third quarter, when they were at that dead area, like the Miami 40, and it was a 3rd and 10. Where he takes the snap and does 1/2 second of ooh, I'm going to pass, and then runs. He's not giving the rush a chance to get upfield. He's giving away that it's a quarterback draw too soon. And that's from me being you remember me, I was a great option quarterback in my day. Yes,
Tarkenton,
I wouldn't. I'm getting in the end zone. It wouldn't have taken me 3 tries, Jordan, to get in the end zone on that QB sneak. It would have taken me 1. But yeah, so I didn't think he was great with that. But we can't just assume they're running the ball as if, this is us. We're just settling for the field goal. I mean, I think they think, that's the best part of their game. He is mobile. He is tough to stop inside the 10. They're not great in the red zone anyway, but a lot of their touchdowns come because of his wheels. So I think that's what they were thinking. It wasn't the last one a quarterback draw that he just ran straight into people.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't. That's not like a give up. Let's set up the field goal. That's them trying to score with what they think is one of their best plays, and I didn't think he ran that well at all.
That's crazy. He finished the game with 62 rushing yards. I don't even remember a run of much substance that he even made in that game.
Yeah, I think he had a 19-yarder,
it was long.
which was his biggest one. And then how many sack yards were there?
That can't be right. I can't even look at this chart. I'm terrible at 21. 21
he
yards?
lost 21 yards in sacks, or
on
Van
3
Dyke
sacks.
did?
It says 3 sacks, 21 yards. Each team got sacked 3 times, 14 for Florida State.
Okay, so he really ran for 76 yards.
Yeah. Okay.
So he ran for 200 or threw for 270 and ran for 75 or 76. I mean, not taking away the sack yardage. It didn't seem like he was incredible.
No.
It wasn't like, my God, this is Jordan Travis's coming out party. This is the best he's ever looked. It just seemed like a normal Jordan Travis game. Really. I mean, he made a couple throws there at the end that we haven't, especially that last one is something we hadn't seen a lot of, but it wasn't over the top incredible. And he put up, 350 yards-ish of total offense and a couple of touchdowns in a rivalry game where he's got those receivers. So again, you start to allow yourself, especially if he can build on what that throw to Parchment there at the end. He had another one to Douglas on a 3rd down, which was nice. He rolled out to the left a little bit and threw to Douglas in the middle of the field for a first down. They didn't convert many 3rd downs. That was one of the few. But yeah, you start to think, okay, man, maybe there is something there where he can be not an elite passer, not an incredible quarterback throwing the ball, but certainly good enough. And it's not a give up on 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8. You can trust him to maybe hang in the pocket and do something with his arm. That's the next step in his evolution. But yeah, it wasn't a Herculean effort by Jordan Travis, and he still put up 340 total yards and 31 points. That bodes well because he can get better, and wait till the people around him are better. Then you're like, okay, Jordan played all right. He totaled 390 yards, and they scored 46 points. That can be the next step in a year or two if he's still the quarterback.
Also, real quick, shout out to Ja'Kai Douglas. I don't know, shout out to Ja'Kai Douglas or shout out to the coaching staff for staying confident in him. And I mean, maybe part of it's Toafili not being available and him getting more action, but I mean, a lot of it was him catching the ball. It wasn't necessarily him running the ball. So for a guy to, week 10, make his biggest impact in those moments, and again, Parchment to a certain degree too, the coaching staff sticking with these guys and having them pay off towards the end of the season.
Yeah,
it's a
both
great thing to
maybe
see.
they just like playing in front of a full house, man. Yeah. Like the only other plays they made of note, really, Douglas against Notre Dame, and then Parchment had a touchdown catch against Notre Dame too to bring Florida State within one score. Yep. It's like, man, give them a full house and they just get juiced. They just get amped. That's what you need. So maybe Boston College will be full. Probably not on Saturday.
Elsewhere in the lovely state of Florida, Florida Atlantic lost to Old Dominion. They're like a 7-point favorite. They have now pretty much dropped out of contention to win the East in the Conference USA, in case you care about that stuff. And Florida, that looked like a basketball score.
Florida State's basketball team barely outscored the Samford football team.
What do we make of that then, Corey? Again, like 5 weeks ago when they went toe-to-toe with Alabama or however long ago that was, it was like, oh, gosh, this is not going to be pretty. State championship is totally up for grabs. Control of the state, all the momentum that comes with it, all the spoils of that is totally up for grabs. And then you start kind of thinking a little bit about the schedule next year where, man, they got to come here. Clemson's got to come here. Who knows what Miami's going to look like next year. And that Van Dyke kid's sticking around. Is Manny there? I don't know. But to see Florida, after they got rid of their defensive coordinator, still look that putrid on defense. They got Missouri on the road this coming weekend. I don't know how much of a get-right that game is, but this is setting up to be, again, I forgot who was on the Renegade Express posting, like the best 6-6 season possibly in collegiate football history, man. What a time, what a world.
Yeah, I mean, that's when you beat your rival, and especially because your rival thought the game was over, like I wrote in my column. That's what made it so sweet is Miami fans, I'm sure the players, but the fans were like, yep, this is number 5 in a row. They're choking like they always do. We got down 17-0, and we believed, and we're going to their house and beat them. And then in, 5 minutes, you've lost the game, and you want to fire your coach. Like that, that's how quick that happens. And then you look, 3 hours away, 2.5 hours away, and you see your other rival giving up 52 points to an FCS school. It's the most points an FCS school has ever scored against an FBS school.
I think it was the most Florida ever had allowed against an FCS school just in the first half. Like the first half points Samford scored was more than they had ever let in a full 60 minutes.
Of course it was. They scored 42. When would they have ever given up more than that? It was the most points Florida had ever given up in a first half period. Ever in the history of the program. And they've been playing football, I think, since the Civil War. In the one before, the record it broke was Charlie Ward in 1992. Not even the 93 Charlie Ward, the 92 Charlie Ward. By that time, though, that thing was running. They'd had no answers for it. But, yeah, Florida State in that game scored 38 points in the half. Florida had not given up more points in a first half until this past weekend against Samford. So, again, that does not mean look, he can coach offense. They put up 70. Yeah. I feel like they still felt better about their FCS game than Florida State fans do, if you really want to look back on 2021 and how it went. But that's a winnable game. That is a very winnable game. You have the best defense in that game by a lot, it would appear, as long as you're healthy. So you do really have a chance to win that game. And again, yeah, you're right. Like if you get Florida next year, who knows what Miami is? You get Clemson next year in Tallahassee. And look, man, I think if they had played Clemson here this year like they should have, because last year's game was canceled, so you had to play on the road twice in a row. Or do they have to come back and play at Doak twice in a row? Probably not. So if you'd have played that game at Doak, you win that game. That's how close you are. Like where 2-3 years ago, you could have played Clemson anywhere on the moon, in a volcano pit. They were going to beat the bejesus out of you. Those days are over where like now a home field actually does matter. And looking around the state and having all those recruits there, man, like to see that atmosphere, to see that crowd like that, and to see what it can be. Like it really was, as I wrote, like Doak was at full volume, man. That was peak. That was as good as it's been in a long time. Well, since the Notre Dame game. But those two games this year proved that, like, number one, how hungry this fan base is, and still what Doak can be for a big game. And I was, 20 minutes before the game, I'm like, man, this is going to look like the NC State game. There's nobody here. What is going on? And then it filled up, and it was loud throughout, and it made a difference, and it makes a difference to recruits. Like they see that stuff, and that you had all of them here. You had all of them in Tallahassee to watch that. It was just a great moment, and you do feel like, again, it's so weird how it shifts from week to week. The narrative of, okay, who's in the best spot now in the state? Like last week, you probably would have said Miami because they had won 3 in a row and you had lost 2 in a row. But, man, you certainly wouldn't say that now after that game. And then you look over at Florida, they're in disarray, and they just gave up 52. They got to go hire a new DC. So it feels like you're probably in a pretty good position, and it would be nice if you won these next 2 games. But, man, just winning that game was a huge deal for Norvell, I think. Because don't you think no matter what – I mean, is A.J. Duffy going to be swayed by a loss at Boston College?
No.
Is that going to matter to him? Don't you think all the proof is in the pudding now that this program, no matter what 6-6 would be a great to finish on a 6-2 run where your 2 losses were at Clemson, where you led in the final 3 minutes, and then a game where you didn't have your quarterback and the team had the flu. Those are your only 2 losses. That's great in and of itself, but all these guys see what this program is now, like that it's getting better. It's not great. They see what it is now, though. And I don't know that a loss at Boston College or even a close loss at Florida, I don't know that any of that matters. I still think you feel like right now you probably have the most – you are on the most firm ground of the 3 big ones in the state.
Yeah. Currently,
right? Even if Florida beats you, I still think like they have so many more question marks than you do. I mean, we'll see how the game goes, but I just feel like that guy is so unlikable. They're itching to get rid of him, I think. And he's got to go find himself a new defensive coordinator, and you seem to have some real stability going here.
We'll see if that Richardson. Is he out for the year?
Who knows,
Busting
man?
his knee up dancing. I mean, figure it out down there.
Well, remember, and even after wasn't it a game they lost, or a game they barely lost or barely won? I can't remember earlier in the season where he said somebody asked him if he was thinking about transferring, and he's like, "No, I'm a Gator for now." Like that was his answer. God, I wish I could remember that game. I think it was a game they lost. No, it was. I feel like did they play in Texas? They didn't lose to A&M, right?
No, they didn't play A&M this year. They haven't played A&M this year.
Arkansas, maybe? Did they lose to Arkansas? It doesn't matter. This isn't what this show is about. But anyway, after one game earlier in this season, because he was still doing the back and forth with the quarterbacks,
right,
and it was clear that Richardson was better, but he still kept playing Emory Jones. It was a game they lost. I just can't remember who it was.
LSU's the furthest west they've been.
Yeah, wasn't that like a high-scoring game?
49-42 Tigers.
Yeah, that's the one. And after the game, Richardson was like, he was asked that. He's like, well, I'm a Gator for now. And then none of this has helped. That he keeps going back and forth, and then he outs the kid for getting hurt dancing, and then Anthony Richardson tweets a video of some dude falling down dancing, like making fun of himself or making fun of his coach. Who knows? But anyway, yeah, that's a weird situation there, and it feels like it's very unstable. No matter what happens at the end of this year, because they probably have a little bit more talent than you, and they're playing at home, it just feels like you're on more solid ground. And this win went a long way to proving to those recruits and to yourself, to your fans, whoever, to us, to media members, that, okay, man, this thing really does appear to be heading in the right direction. It's still a slow go. They're not going to win 11 games next year, but it does seem to be heading down the right path.
Yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see how that last game in November goes. Currently, Florida State 3-point underdog against Boston College, which I think is a noon game. Thank God. I don't know if they've announced kickoff for the Florida game yet. Hopefully that.
I don't think they have.
Game.
Yeah, me and Tom Lang were talking about that. You wouldn't think why would that be a 6-day option, the Florida game? Like, what are they waiting to see?
They just want to make me miserable,
Right.
Hey,
hopefully they'll announce when that game is here soon.
2 other quick things before we go out. One of our subscribers, I think it's Amstaffnol, wanted to get ahead of the pun game. Wanted to refer, I know you got a bigger brain case than I do, wanted to refer to the completion of the parchment as fourth and parched.
Okay, that's a much better than Parchment Funkadelic. Because that's more of a nickname for him as a person.
But what does that even mean? I mean, I know being parched is being thirsty, but like fourth was.
Well, you got
torched?
parched.
You
got torched. You got parched. Like Miami just got parched.
But that's.
Well, look, man, it is a verb. It's not maybe the verb you'd like. It's not punched. His name isn't Punchment. But parch isn't exactly the verb you think of when you're talking about pummeling someone or breaking their spirit. But yeah, they got parched.
See, it'd be funny if it was against like Taggart, who was like thirsty or something. And then also, he said maybe he wanted to refer to it as the Van Spike game, which
Ira came up with that one.
Okay.
Not the Van Spike game, because the game that makes it sound like the game was won because of that. They weren't winning that game anyway, or Miami was losing that game regardless.
Right.
It was just dumb.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, that's pretty dumb to go and spike. Ira I think tweeted that or wrote that. But yeah, it was really dumb for them to do that. And I thought Van Dyke, man, he made some great throws, like the one off the goal line.
Second half, he was nails. Yeah.
Yeah, he made some great throws. But he had some nice runs. He looked every bit the part. But he legitimately got affected by that pass rush, and I think by that crowd.
Yes.
Like, he did not look like himself at all. He threw 2 interceptions, fumbled another, and he really could have thrown a couple more interceptions. Yeah. Like, he looked frazzled. But they didn't have any other options because I think their backup's a walk-on right now. And then he came back and played really well because he's a good player.
And then basketball, unfortunately, that 7-game dominating streak over the Gators came to an end on Sunday. They lost to the Gators. Thought Leonard said it best, like Florida kind of just out FSU'd. FSU, 71-55 was the final. Like their big guy just out-muscled our guys. Not that we really had a big that matched up with them. And I just inbounding the ball and getting the ball over the timeline was just like miserable to watch. I'm not upset though. Get out of the way. You weren't going to win every single game against that team. I still have faith in what this team will look like, but yeah, they did lose. So
they did. It was a little bit of a tough matchup. Florida, man, college basketball. So all of Florida's top 7 guys in the rotation are all transfers. 4 of them are first-year transfers, and I think all 4 are grad transfers. They are an old team, and they looked it. They were experienced. They were hungry. They seemed a little bit tougher than Florida State, maybe mentally and physically, but it's early in the season. But yeah, that's why I think Leonard said what he said. Like, they had 10 blocked shots. They forced 17 turnovers. They had a bunch of steals that led to baskets on the other end. He's like, yeah, they kind of out-Florida State, which you have to be really secure in what you've built as a program and who you are as a coach and a person to say something like that, because it's awesome. That's one of my favorite all-time Leonard Hamilton quotes. But yeah, because he was saying they played desperate, they played hard, they played with energy throughout, they were swarming, they out-physicaled the other team, they intimidated the other team, and that's what Florida State usually does to everyone. So it was one of those games. You're not going to win many. You're not going to beat any good teams if your starting guards, Caleb Mills and Anthony Polite, both go 1 for 7 from the field and score 4 points total. Your starting backcourt scored 4 points. That's going to be tough to win. Matthew Cleveland is the truth. He's going to have some up and down moments, but that guy has a feel and a flow to his game. He's really good. And Mills is going to have much better games than that over the year. That was just hopefully that was just an anomaly. And yeah, you can't win them all, right, Aslan?
Cannot.
Ask Miami.
Yeah.
Miami football fans are probably cool today, right? They're like, look, we beat this team all the time? We beat them 4 in a row. Let them have their one. Oh wait, no, let's fire our coach. Hey, we should give shout-outs to the people that came to Corner Pocket, though, on Friday.
I don't remember everybody's name. Shout-out, I remember Leroy and his son. I want to say Jalen? I don't remember. But shout-out to Leroy.
We saw Marlon and his crew.
Marlon, who was literally with 6 Cane fans. Shout-out Marlon. Clay from Baton Rouge with his buddy who looked like Jeremy Renner. Do you remember the Jeremy Renner lookalike's name?
Yeah, no, I don't. That
Chris?
Was his brother, though.
Was it
yeah.
Chris?
It's Jeremy. I'm pretty sure we're just going to call him Jeremy.
All
he
right.
did look like it was a spitting image of Jeremy Renner. It was crazy.
Yeah.
I almost asked him for his autograph, but I'm not a big Renner fan. What am I going to watch, Hawkeye?
Yeah. Shout out to J-Rob. Janoris Robinson was making the rounds in College Town, and I was actually out Friday. So, by the way, a bunch of you were like, oh, see, it's CP on Friday night, Aslan, and you guys were no-shows. And I don't appreciate that.
Well, no, there was a guy. He is a big dude. He is from Mississippi.
Oh, was it Walker? Walker.
Yeah.
Okay.
Walker and his I assume it's his girlfriend or his wife. I don't know. He looked pretty young. Don't get married too young, kids. But not you, Walker. She looked like a very nice person. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it's a life advice. He got there. He was there early. He said hello to me before the show even started. Okay. But I meant to go talk to him after the show, and he had bounced. Right. And you didn't get there for another hour. But Shane and Michelle were there as well. They're the pillars were there. But yeah. So Walker made it, and it was fun, man. Marlon and the crew.
Yeah.
Who was the one that had? Is it what's his name on the show? Get Down Black.
That's Leroy.
Leroy. Yeah. So his fiance, I think it's his fiance, kept telling me that I needed to buy Stephanie a ring.
Oh,
and quit screwing around. And I'm like, Leroy, you've got to get her out of here.
You've
got to get her out of here. What is going on?
So
that was a fun time.
Also, who's our guy from San Diego? Mike? Is it Mike from San Diego? Shout out to our dude from San Diego that was out here for the Notre Dame game. He was also at Corner Pocket on Friday as well.
Oh, all right. Okay.
But so my buddy, the one that stole his wife away from Andrew Jones, the baseball player, he was back in town, and he was with 4 of his fraternity brothers. And they're all like pushing 40. They're my age, and they're all still fully immersed in the fraternity life. And it was, and like when I hang around with them, like I'm on a lower social stratosphere than they are. It's a little bit annoying because usually when I'm with my friends, I'm kind of the loud, talkative guy, but I have to kind of stay back in the shadows when I'm out with these dudes. But they're a little bit better. They're a little bit more mature. But we're at College Town, and Janoris Robinson walks by, and they're like, oh, that's Janoris Robinson. And J-Rob's like, hey, man, you look familiar. How do I know you? And I'm like, I work for Warchant. I used to cover you for the last year. He's like, oh, yeah, word. He's like, good to see you. And he like dapped me up, and like we hugged. And
nice.
Like, dude, you know J-Rob? I'm like, yeah, it's part of the gig, So that was cool. And then they were being really obnoxious and just like yelling stuff at everybody. So I was just mocking my friends that I was with, and we would see Miami fans, and I'd be like, hey, man, I don't like you. I don't like your school either. Just to kind of just be like silly about it. And this one young man had a Sebastian Ibis t-shirt.
How young?
He's probably like, 21 maybe.
Okay.
I'm guessing because he was legally drinking. And this is the thing too. I'm at a college bar, and we're all older dudes, and we're just looking at, we're like.
You're the creeps.
Yeah. I'm like, I wonder which one of these guys I would be. Like if I was 21 right now, which of these guys that's out here, who would I be?
You would be the one making fun of the 40-year-olds.
Probably.
Hanging out with you.
Absolutely. I would be. But I go up to and I'm picking on a 21-year-old kid. I'm like, nice shirt. Your school sucks, man. And he said, he's like, Aslan. He's like, dude, he's like, I listen to you and Corey every day. I love the show. He's like, this shirt's making fun of Miami. And it was Sebastian the Ibis with a bag over his head, and it said windbag, and underneath it said make America beautiful again or something like that.
Oh, okay.
So
all
he's
right.
like, dude, I'm making fun of Miami. I'm like, oh. So like we dapped up, and I'm like, I'm sorry, man. I think his name was Charlie. So, Charlie, if you're hearing this, sorry for accosting you with 5 other grown men around me like I'm some sort of tough guy.
It's cool that he got to see the real Aslan, though, out in the wild.
Yeah.
Like,
so
if he hadn't have known who you were, it's like, man, if he was a real Miami fan.
Right.
Like that, he got to see what Aslan's really all about.
I think I saw Walter Jones out there on Friday night. Josh Brown was with J-Rob.
I think Trey Thomas was in the house,
yes,
too.
He was.
Former FSU great, who is, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer in the NFL, but he was an All-Pro for a good while.
Yeah.
His son was with him.
Yeah.
I think his son's 14. And would probably start on Florida State's line tomorrow.
That is correct.
Just a huge dude. There were a lot of great. Derek Brooks was there, obviously, because it was DeKalen's final senior day. There were 3 proposals in the crowd.
I heard. That's what they said on the broadcast.
Including the marching chiefs. I'd like to know who they were. I think the guy that proposed, the marching chief guy, was the dude that, at least looking at the garb he was wearing, is the guy, the head dude that like does the high stepping to the 40 and then plants the baton.
I think so.
Like,
yeah, he's got that.
The main guy.
Outfit. Yeah, he had that outfit on.
So, yeah, I guess he associates with the regular band folks.
Look at that.
I thought maybe he would be I thought it was like a professor-student type of relationship. But apparently they're equals, and then he proposed to one of them, and I assume she said yes. It looked like they were smiling.
Yes. They did horrible camera work by ESPN, but they did let us know yes. And there was a Jumbotron engagement, I guess. I don't know if you were able to see that?
Yeah, there was that one, too. They were up, man. They were up like in one of the last rows. So it was good work by the crew to find them. Because they really were up high. 2 of them were on the field, and then that one was up high. And again, it looked like they all said yes. But when you do it up high and you're in the crowd, and you're not doing it Brady Scott style, like people are going to be jumping behind you to wave to the camera. Yeah. So it kind of takes away a little bit of the moment. But still. So it was fun. Love was in the air. Great win. We all felt great afterwards. I didn't get too drunk on Saturday night. Can't say the same for Friday night. Hey-o. But Saturday night I was all right. I was fine. Good times all around, man. It was a fun weekend.
Yeah. All right, folks, don't forget, 11:30 press conference with Mike Norvell starts. After him is Kenny, then Adam, and then Papuchis. We'll have all that up on warchant.com. Corey will have live commentary transcribing out everything they say, and then you can watch the videos with it as well shortly thereafter. Then Jeff Cameron goes 1 to 3 p.m. right here on Warchant TV, as well as 93.3 FM in Tallahassee. And then Trench Talk, 6 p.m. with Devontae Love Taylor. Get involved, everybody. Please get involved. Ask some questions. So Devontae feels the love, so he feels appreciated. This guy takes 30 minutes out of his day on Monday, which is his day off, to interact with you folks. Get involved. Come on.
You tell him, Aslan. You tell him.
All of it going down over at warchant.com. So stay tuned, stay connected with us, and we'll drop a show for you folks on Tuesday. Again, in the meantime, check out all that stuff. He's Corey Amazon. Thanks so much for listening to Wake Up Warchant, fueled by DeLuna Coffee. Come explore our world of coffee. DeLuna Coffee features over 24 different blends. DeLuna's unique roasts can be delivered ground finely for drip coffee makers, coarse for the craft crowd, untouched as a whole bean, or even in convenient K-Cups. Founded in 2014 by the Lemmix family, Ed and Brett are FSU alums and boosters who are extending a special offer to all listeners. Use the promo code WARCHANT15 for a 15% discount. Visit DeLunaCoffee.com and check out their Facebook and Instagram.